What if the hardest thing you will ever have to do is absolutely nothing? Have you ever noticed how an empty day, a day completely free of obligations, can sometimes feel heavier than a day filled with endless tasks? You spend your entire week craving a moment of peace. You tell yourself you just need one day to catch your breath. But when that day finally arrives and the house is quiet, a strange feeling creeps in. You do not feel rested. You feel restless. A quiet, vibrating guilt whispers that you are falling behind, that you are wasting time, that you should be doing something. If you have ever felt this sudden shame when trying to rest, if you have ever felt emotionally exhausted but completely unable to stop moving, this is for you. Stay until the end, because the final lesson may change the way you see this pain forever. 1. The heavy burden of an empty day. When we finally take a day off, we expect instant relief. We expect the tension in our shoulders to melt away. But often, the opposite happens. The moment the noise of the outside world fades, the noise in our own minds grows deafening. We pace the room, we pick up our phones, we invent small chores, we clean a drawer that does not need cleaning. We check messages that do not need checking. We find ourselves incapable of simply sitting still. Why does peace feel so uncomfortable? Buddhist wisdom teaches that much of our suffering comes from our deep attachment to our own identity. Over time, we attach ourselves to the roles we play: the hard worker, the provider, the reliable one, the person who always has the answers. We build our entire sense of self around our motion. We learn to believe that our output is our worth. So, when the motion suddenly stops, we are faced with a terrifying void. If you are not producing, if you are not fixing, if you are not helping, then who are you? Imagine a glass of water scooped from a rushing, muddy river. While the river is churning and moving, the water looks powerful and full of force. But if you pour that water into a glass and set it on a quiet table, a difficult process begins. The water must sit. The dirt and debris must slowly drift to the bottom. The water must endure the deeply uncomfortable transition of becoming still. Your mind is like that river. You have been moving at such a high speed for so long, trying to keep everything together, trying to meet every expectation. When you finally sit down on a Sunday afternoon, the momentum is still there. The mind is still rushing, searching for a problem to solve, even though the body has stopped. The mud is trying to settle, but you keep shaking the glass because the clarity feels too unfamiliar. Think about your own life. Think about the last time you tried to take a real break. Did you feel a subtle shame for just sitting on the couch? Did you feel the urge to explain or justify your rest to someone else? We say things like, "I am just taking a quick break before I do the laundry," or "I am resting now so I can work harder tomorrow." We treat rest as something that must be earned, and even then, we apologize for it. We do not know how to just exist. Ask yourself, what are you running from when you refuse to rest? What are you afraid you will hear if you finally let things be quiet? Pause, breathe, observe the thought without following it. You are allowed to just exist. You do not need to pay rent for your time on this earth with endless productivity. But to truly let go of this guilt, we must first look at how we have been taught to measure our very existence. Because beneath the inability to rest is a deeply ingrained belief. A belief that stillness is weakness, and this is where the next truth begins. 2. The illusion that value requires exhaustion. What if the exhaustion you feel is not a badge of honor, but a cage you have built for yourself? Here is the truth few people want to face. We have fallen in love with our own struggle. We live in a world that praises the heavy lift, the sleepless night, the endless sacrifice. If you finish your daily tasks early and have nothing left to do, you feel anxious. If you sleep late on a weekend, you feel a sharp pang of failure. We have convinced ourselves that if we are not tired, we are not doing enough. You look at others who always seem to be rushing, always overwhelmed, and you wonder if you should be pushing harder too. You have learned to measure a good day by how much energy it took from you, rather than how much peace it gave you. Buddhist wisdom teaches us to look closely at our attachments. We often think of attachment as clinging to physical objects or to other people, but one of the most powerful attachments is clinging to our own suffering. The ego loves friction. It loves to feel necessary, and nothing feels more necessary than carrying a heavy load. Buddhism reminds us that our true nature is already whole. You do not have to buy your worth with your sweat. The universe does not demand your exhaustion as proof that you deserve to be here. Imagine a traveler walking a long dirt road, carrying a heavy stone in his backpack. The stone serves no real purpose. It does not provide food, it does not offer shelter, and it does not light the way in the dark. But he has carried it for so long that he believes the weight of the stone is what keeps his feet firmly on the ground. When the path is steep, he leans into the weight. When the path is flat and easy, he walks faster just to feel the familiar resistance. When someone suggests he take the stone out of the bag and leave it by the river, he feels a sudden panic. He thinks, if I am not carrying this weight, I will blow away. If I am not struggling, I am not truly traveling. He has mistaken the burden for the path. How often do you carry that stone in your own life? You create unnecessary stress at work just to feel productive. You overcomplicate simple relationships because peace feels too quiet, almost suspicious. You fill your schedule to the brim, terrified of the blank spaces on the calendar. When someone asks how you are doing, you respond with how busy you are, as if busy means valuable. Think about your own life. What would happen if things were just easy for a day? What are you afraid will happen if you set the stone down? Is this constant state of exhaustion bringing you closer to happiness? Or is it just feeding your fear of not being enough? Stop, breathe, let the feeling rise without making it your identity. You do not have to struggle to belong here. You can do good work, care for your loved ones, and live deeply without burning yourself to the ground. Because peace is not the reward for a lifetime of exhaustion. Peace is what happens when you finally stop fighting the present moment. But releasing the struggle is terrifying when you have used it for so long to protect yourself. And this is where the next truth begins. Because beneath the exhaustion is a wall you have built to keep the world from getting too close. 3. Over-functioning as a shield. What if the harder you work to keep everything together, the more you are actually hiding? Here is a difficult truth. We often mistake over-functioning for caring. You anticipate every problem before it happens. You plan the schedule. You take on the extra project because it feels safer to just do it yourself. You become the one everyone relies on, the one who never drops the ball. But deep down, this constant management is not just about being helpful. It is about control, and control is the ultimate shield against vulnerability. In Buddhist thought, one of our greatest sources of suffering is the illusion that we can control the impermanent world. We construct elaborate defenses to protect our fragile sense of self. Over-functioning is a form of emotional armor. Buddhism reminds us that attachment takes many forms. We can become deeply attached to our identity as the strong one, the perfect worker, or the person who fixes everything. If you are always the provider, the organizer, the rock, you never have to be the one who needs help. You never have to sit in the terrifying position of asking for support. You avoid the risk of being seen as weak, or worse, the risk of being rejected. This attachment causes deep suffering because it demands that we deny our own human limitations. Imagine a knight who returns from a long, bitter war. The battles are over, and he is finally home in a quiet, peaceful village. But he refuses to take off his heavy iron armor. He wears it to the dinner table. He wears it to sleep. He tells himself He is just being prepared, that danger could strike at any moment. He constantly polishes the metal, tightens the leather straps, and stays rigidly alert, completely exhausting his body. But the war is over. The armor is no longer protecting him from an enemy. It is keeping him from feeling the warmth of the sun and the gentle touch of his loved ones. He is perfectly safe, yet entirely trapped by his own defense. We wear this same armor in our daily lives. You do not let others help you because they will not do it exactly the way you want. You swallow your own sadness because you feel you must be the emotional anchor for your friends. You reply to messages late at night so no one can accuse you of slipping up. You have convinced yourself that if you are absolutely indispensable, you will never be abandoned. You perform competence to buy love and security. But the cost of being impenetrable is that no one can truly reach you. If you are always the one giving, organizing, and protecting, you leave no space to be held. Think about your own life. Think about the silent exhaustion of always having to be the capable one. Ask yourself, what are you afraid will happen if you let the ball drop just once? Who are you when you are no longer useful to everyone else? Is your constant motion an act of love, or is it a thick wall you have built to hide your own fragile heart? Pause, breathe. Notice the heavy tension you carry. You do not have to hold the entire world together. Stop trying to force the door open and stop holding the walls up. Let the feeling of being unneeded rise without making it your identity. You are allowed to be seen in your messiness, in your fatigue, in your desperate need for rest. You do not have to earn your place here by doing everything for everyone. But dropping the shield requires facing what you have been running from all along. And this is where the next truth begins. Because beneath the armor, waiting patiently in the quiet, is the very stillness you fear most. 4. The fear of stillness. What if the silence you are trying so hard to avoid is the only thing that can actually heal you? Here is the truth. We treat stillness like a threat. When you finally have a moment to yourself, when the phone screen is dark and the house is quiet, you do not feel peace. You feel a sudden, creeping anxiety. You turn on the television just for background noise. You scroll through endless feeds to fill the empty space. You are terrified of being alone with your own mind, because in the quiet, all the thoughts you have been outrunning finally catch up to you. The sadness, the doubts, the unresolved questions you buried under a mountain of daily tasks, they all wait in the stillness. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that running from our internal weather only gives it more power. In Buddhist thought, mindfulness is not about forcing the mind to be empty and happy. It is about having the courage to sit and watch what happens when you stop moving. We suffer because we believe our difficult emotions will destroy us if we turn around and face them. We cling to distraction as a false refuge. But true freedom begins when we realize that thoughts and emotions are just impermanent visitors. They arise, and if we do not fight them, they eventually pass. Imagine a small, quiet lake hidden deep in a forest. Above the lake, heavy, dark clouds roll in. The wind begins to howl, and cold rain lashes down. If you are afraid of the storm, you might throw rocks into the water, trying to break the reflection of the terrifying sky. You might thrash your hands in the water, trying to force the surface to remain perfectly clear. But all you do is stir up the mud from the bottom, making the water dark, murky, and chaotic. The lake itself does not fight the storm. It simply lets the rain fall, lets the clouds pass, and waits. When the storm finally ends, the water naturally settles, and the surface reflects the open sky once again. You do this in your own life when you fill your evenings with meaningless noise. You throw rocks into your own lake. You stay late at the office. You overcommit to weekend plans. You keep your mind constantly stimulated, so you never have to reflect on the dark clouds of your own worry, loneliness, or exhaustion. You are exhausting your spirit, trying to keep the surface of your life looking busy and clear. But underneath, the mud is always swirling. Think about your own life. What are you avoiding when you refuse to sit quietly in an empty room? What fears are you hoping to drown out with a constant stream of activity? Are you really resting? Or are you just finding a different way to run away from yourself? Pause. Breathe. Let the silence in. Let the storm pass without becoming the storm. You do not have to fight the weather of your own mind. You can sit beside your own anxiety without letting it force you into action. But learning to stay seated requires a different kind of strength than the one you are used to. And this is where the next truth begins. Because nature already knows how to endure without fighting. What if true strength has nothing to do with how much you can carry and everything to do with how long you can stand still? Here is the truth. We have forgotten how to simply exist without a purpose. When you take a day off, your mind searches for a way to make that day useful. You read a book to improve yourself. You go for a walk to maintain your health. Even your rest becomes a project to manage. You feel a deep, uncomfortable guilt if a day passes and you have absolutely nothing to show for it. You believe that if you are not growing, moving, or producing, you are somehow fading away. Buddhist wisdom teaches us to look to the natural world to understand the rhythm of our own lives. One of the deepest lessons of Buddhism is that all things move in natural cycles of exertion and rest. Clinging to constant motion goes against the very nature of existence. You suffer because you expect yourself to live in a permanent state of blooming. But in Buddhist thought, emptiness is not a void to be feared. It is the space where all life gathers its strength. Rest is not a weakness. It is a profound, quiet power. Imagine a great tree standing on the edge of a field. When the harsh winter arrives, the tree does not fight the cold. It does not force its branches to push out bright green leaves. It does not panic and try to produce fruit in the freezing snow just to prove it is still alive. It simply lets its leaves fall. It stands completely bare, unmoving, and exposed to the elements. To the outside world, the tree appears to be doing absolutely nothing. But deep underground, in the quiet darkness, the roots are expanding. The tree is gathering water. It is resting. The tree does not apologize for its barren branches, nor does it feel guilty for not providing shade. It trusts the winter. It knows that this deep, unmoving stillness is exactly what will allow it to blossom when the spring finally comes. You forget this wisdom in your own life. You demand a harvest from yourself during a season when your spirit desperately needs a winter. When you are emotionally exhausted from a difficult week, or entirely drained from the demands of your relationships, you still try to force yourself to bloom. You push yourself to attend social events when your body is begging for quiet. You feel guilty for sleeping through a Saturday morning, as if resting is a failure rather than a profound necessity. You judge yourself for being bare and tired, forgetting that without the winter the tree would eventually die. Think about your own life. Think about the heavy guilt you carry when you are not being useful. Ask yourself, what season are you truly in right now? Are you demanding fruit from branches that just need to rest? What would happen if you trusted your own winter? Pause. Breathe. Let the heavy expectation drop to the ground. You do not have to be in bloom all year round. You can stand still in the quiet, gathering your strength without apologizing to anyone. Because true resilience is not about forcing yourself to move when you are exhausted. It is about trusting that the stillness is doing its own invisible work. But letting go of this constant motion means facing the loud inner critic that tells you your worth must be earned every single day. And this is where the next truth begins. What if you spent your entire life trying to win a game that has no prize? Here is the truth few people want to face. You are living as if your worth is on trial, and you are the only witness. When you take a day off, the guilt that rises in your chest is not just a habit. It is a deep, agonizing belief that you must constantly justify your space in the world. You look around and see people achieving, moving, and succeeding, and you feel a quiet panic that you are falling behind. You have confused your output with your identity. You believe that if you stop moving, if you stop proving how capable, smart, or hard-working you are, people will finally realize you are not enough. Buddhist wisdom teaches that this endless pursuit of validation is one of the heaviest chains we wear. We suffer because we attach our identity to external conditions, our jobs, our productivity, the praise of others. But Buddhism reminds us that your true nature is inherently whole. You do not need to construct a valuable self through endless labor. The ego constantly demands evidence of your worth. It says, "Show me what you have done today." But spiritual liberation begins when you realize you do not have to answer that voice. You do not have to pay daily rent to exist on this earth. Imagine a beautiful songbird trapped inside an open cage. The door is wide open, and the endless sky is right outside. But the bird does not leave. Instead, it paces back and forth on its wooden perch. It sings louder and louder, performing frantic tricks, trying desperately to impress the empty room. It believes that if it sings perfectly enough, if it works hard enough, it will finally earn the right to fly. It does not realize that the sky has always belonged to it. The cage is not locked by iron. It is locked by the bird's own belief that freedom must be earned. You are that bird when you refuse to let yourself rest. You compare yourself to others and feel the crushing pressure to succeed. You take on extra projects at work. You say yes to favors you do not have the energy to do. And you spend your weekends organizing and fixing bugs, trying to perform your worth for a world that is not even watching. You are terrified that if you stop performing, you will lose your value. You treat your own life like an audition, and the deep emotional exhaustion you feel is the cost of never breaking character. Think about your own life. Think about the silent pressure you put on your own shoulders every single morning. Ask yourself, who are you still trying to prove yourself to? What are you afraid will happen if you just stop performing? If you were entirely alone, with no one to impress and no one to disappoint, how would you spend this day? Pause, breathe, do your part, then release the outcome. You do not need to earn the right to rest. You do not need to justify your existence with a checklist of completed tasks. You can simply step out of the cage, because peace is not a trophy you win after a lifetime of hard work. Peace is the quiet realization that you were already enough before you even started trying. But accepting this inherent worth means letting down your guard completely. And this is where the next truth begins, because releasing the need to prove yourself will leave you face to face with your own raw vulnerability. 7. Meeting your vulnerability with grace. What if the feeling you are running from is not your enemy, but a forgotten piece of yourself asking to be seen? Here is a difficult truth. When you finally lay down the heavy shield of your own productivity, you do not immediately feel light. You feel painfully exposed. When you are no longer the fixer, the achiever, or the one in constant motion, you are left with just yourself. And for many of us, simply being with ourselves feels dangerously vulnerable. On a quiet Sunday afternoon, when there are no emails to answer and no errands to run, the silence amplifies the small, quiet fears you have been outrunning. You feel the ache of loneliness, the sting of past criticism, or the terrifying uncertainty of your own future. You realize that your overfunctioning was a way to numb the deeply human experience of feeling fragile. Buddhist wisdom teaches that suffering multiplies when we reject our own pain. We push our sadness into the shadows and lock the door, believing that if we ignore it, it will disappear. But Buddhism reminds us of the power of gentle awareness. The goal is not to eradicate your fear or to become perfectly invincible. The goal is to develop the capacity to sit softly with your own woundedness. When a painful emotion arises in the quiet, you do not have to fight it, fix it, or drown it out with a new project. You can simply look at it with the compassion you so easily give to others. Imagine a thick, heavy wooden door at the end of a long, dark hallway inside your home. You have kept this door locked for years because you are terrified of the shadows that might be living in that room. To keep yourself from thinking about the locked door, you build a loud, busy life in the hallway. You pace back and forth, organizing the rugs, sweeping the floor, and hanging pictures. You exhaust yourself in the hallway just to avoid turning the key, but one day, the exhaustion becomes too much. You stop sweeping. You take a deep breath, unlock the door, and walk inside holding a single small candle. As the soft light touches the corners of the room, you realize there are no monsters here. There are only old, dusty pieces of furniture. There are just quiet memories and neglected spaces waiting for the light. You do this in your own life when you fill your days off with frantic chores and endless scrolling. You are sweeping the hallway to avoid opening the door to your own heart. You are terrified that if you sit on the couch and do nothing, a wave of sadness or anxiety will wash over you and pull you under. But those feelings are just shadows. They are just old memories and quiet fears waiting to be met with a little warmth. When you finally allow yourself to feel them, you realize they cannot destroy you. They just want to be acknowledged. Think about your own life. Think about the quiet moments that make you want to instantly pick up your phone. Ask yourself, what is behind the locked door in your own mind? What emotion are you trying to outwork, outrun, and outplan? What would happen if you simply invited it in for tea? Pause, breathe. Open the door without running away. You do not have to be strong all the time. You can let the fragility exist. You can hold your own fear without letting it dictate your worth. Because true peace is not the absence of vulnerability. It is the deep, quiet courage to meet yourself exactly as you are without looking away. But sitting in this open space requires a practice of gentle return. And this is where the next truth begins. 8. The practice of sacred pausing. What if the most powerful action you can take is to consciously choose not to act at all? Here is the truth. Knowing that you need to rest is very different from actually letting yourself do it. You may understand that overfunctioning is a shield. You may realize that the guilt is just an old, exhausting habit. But when you finally sit down, the urge to move strikes like a physical reflex. Your hands twitch to grab your phone. Your mind suddenly remembers a minor task you forgot to finish. In that tiny gap between stopping and actually resting, a quiet panic sets in. You do not know how to cross the bridge from doing to simply being. Buddhist wisdom teaches that the space between an impulse and a reaction is where our true freedom lives. In Buddhist thought, this is the profound power of the mindful pause. We suffer because we blindly follow every anxious thought that pulls at us. If the mind says, "You are wasting time," we immediately jump up and find a chore. We let our fears dictate our physical reality. But Buddhism reminds us that you do not have to obey every thought that crosses your mind. A thought is just a passing breeze. The sacred pause is the moment you feel the wind, but choose not to let it carry you away. Imagine a small wooden boat moving swiftly down a rushing river. For days, the sailor has been frantically rowing, fighting the current, dodging sharp rock, and exhausting himself to his very bones. Finally, he reaches a quiet, wide bay where the water is completely calm, but his arms are so used to the struggle that he keeps rowing in frantic, tight circles. The only way to break the cycle of exhaustion is to pull the oars out of the water and drop a heavy iron anchor into the deep below. The boat will still drift slightly. The lingering waves will still gently rock the wood, but the anchor holds it in place until the water fully settles and the sailor can finally lie back, and look at the sky. You are that frantic sailor when the weekend finally arrives. Your mind is still rowing in tight circles. When the guilt tells you to get up and organize a room that is already clean, or when anxiety whispers that you are forgetting something important, you reflexively reach for the oars. The practice of the sacred pause is learning to drop the anchor. It is the conscious decision to feel the urge to work, to feel the sharp sting of guilt, and to choose to stay seated anyway. You let the feeling rock the boat, but you do not pick up the oars. You sit on the couch and watch the guilt rise. You watch it tell you that you are falling behind. You watch it threaten your sense of worth, and you simply breathe through it, letting it pass like a wave against the hull. Think about your own life. Think about what happens in that very first moment when you sit down to rest. Ask yourself, can you feel the impulse to move without actually moving? What would happen if you let the guilt wash over you and just waited quietly for it to fade away? Pause, breathe, feel the urge to fix, and let it pass. You do not have to fight the restlessness, you just have to outwait it. You can sit through the discomfort of doing nothing until the discomfort finally gives up and leaves you alone. Because once the anchor holds and the noise fades, you will find yourself in the very place you have been seeking all along. And this is where the final truth begins. 9. Making peace with the present. What if the peace you have been desperately searching for was waiting for you right here, the moment you finally stopped trying to earn it? Think back to that empty day we spoke about at the very beginning. The quiet house, the heavy, vibrating guilt that creeps in when you try to rest. For so long, you believed that feeling meant you were doing something wrong. You believed that an empty day was a wasted day and that your value was tied directly to your exhaustion. You have spent years running on a cycle of over-functioning, using your competence and your endless labor as a shield to keep the world from seeing your vulnerability. You carried the heavy stone, convinced it was keeping you grounded. You were the bird pacing in the open cage, performing endlessly for a freedom that was already yours. But now you know the truth. The guilt you feel when you sit down is not a sign that you are failing. It is simply the echo of an old habit. It is a tired story you no longer have to believe. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that true freedom is not found in perfecting your life, organizing every detail, or anticipating every problem before it happens. True freedom is found in the simple, quiet act of letting go. It is the deep practice of non-attachment, not just releasing your grip on external things, but releasing your tight grip on the idea of who you are supposed to be. When you stop trying to control the rhythm of your life, you allow the muddy water in the glass to finally settle. You allow the winter tree to gather its strength in the dark. Imagine what your life would feel like if you completely surrendered the need to prove your worth. Imagine waking up on a Sunday morning, making a cup of tea, and sitting by the window without a single expectation for the hours ahead. The house is silent. If a thought of guilt arises, you just look at it softly. You recognize it as an old visitor who no longer has any power over you. You drop the anchor. You watch the storm pass without becoming the storm. You exist fully and completely, simply because you are breathing. You are not a machine built for endless production. You are a living spirit who deserves to experience the profound beauty of a still moment. The world will not fall apart if you close your eyes. The people who truly love you will not leave just because you put down your heavy armor and asked for a moment to rest. You do not have to buy your place in this world with your stress, your anxiety, or your unending capability. Think about your own life. Think about the massive space that opens up when you finally stop fighting the present moment. Ask yourself, are you ready to let the mud settle? Are you ready to stop running from your own quiet heart? Pause. Breathe. Let that sink in. The hardest thing you will ever have to do is absolutely nothing, but it is also the most deeply healing thing you will ever experience. Give yourself permission to step out of the rushing river. The world will wait for you. If these lessons touched your heart, share this video with someone who may need a little more peace today. You can let go now.